Hi guys, my name is Richard and welcome back to the RQ Studio. Now in my previous video, I mentioned that I'll be taking us through an SQL tutorial that is going to be in separate parts. In the previous video, we learned about DDL and DML. And in this video, we are going to be learning about DQL. Now, I'm sure you'll be wondering, what are these terms? Now, if you want to know about DDL and DML, please check my previous video. However, the focus of this video is DQL, and DQL stands for data query languages. Now, data query languages is the ability to query a database to retrieve data without updating the data or changing the data that sits in the database or sits in the table. And that is the focus of this video. So stay tuned. So I'll be taking you through select statements, queries for filtering data, queries for sorting data, and finally, queries for aggregating and summarizing data. So let's dive right in. So for the purpose of this video, I have created a database called OnlineDB, and I've uploaded a table in it. So when you look on the left-hand side, you see that I have two databases, DummyDB and OnlineDB. And when I expand the OnlineDB and go to tables, you see that I have a table called Online Retail in that. So that consists of a data set that I got online, a dummy data set, and that's what we'll be using for the entire SQL tutorial. So I'll share this data with you in case anyone viewing wants to try to write the SQL statements and go along with the video, they can do that. So watch out for the link to the data set in the description. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to call out the database, making use of the use function, use online db, and we are going to execute that. In SQL Server, you need to highlight the query, click on execute, or press F5 or run, depending on the software you're using, be it SQL Server, MySQL, and the likes. But what I'm using for this video is Microsoft SQL Server. So the first DQL script we are going to be writing is select statements. But I like to start by writing comments. So anytime you see the hyphen, two hyphens before some text, then it's a comment. So all comments will be seen in green. And I think it's a good practice when writing scripts to always add comments for easily traceability, easy readability, easy auditability, and allows you to review your scripts later on and easily understand or easily run through them to understand what you are trying to do in that moment. I mean, as you go along, as you travel on your journey in SQL, you realize that sometimes you refer to scripts you've already written as a reference, and comments really help a lot. So I'm using comments. So what we are going to do is write the first select statement, or write the first query, and that's a select statement. So we'll make use of the syntax in SQL, which is the select, followed by, in English, we would use the term all, from, and then we would use the table name. So if, let's say, we're writing an English statement, this is what we intend to do. We intend to select all columns from the table. Just for explainability, I'm just using this as an example. So if this was English, or an English, if this was English, I would write this as a statement: select all columns from, then I put in the table name. Now in select statements, the term all is represented with the asterisk, right? So instead of all, the term, we make use of the symbol, the asterisk. So the select statement is going to go like this: select all from, then you select the table name, and in this instance it's Online Retail DB. Luckily for us, SQL Server gives us suggestions when we start our SQL statement. So I'm going to highlight it and execute or run. And there you have it. You have run your first DQL statement or first query, and this allows you to review or retrieve data that sits in that database, specifically in the table that you have called out, right? So in the online DB database, there is a table called online retail, and in that table we have these columns. Okay. Now if you want to call out specific columns, let's say in the instance where there are so many columns in that table and you just want some specific columns for some analysis purposes, we are going to get through to that. So instead of writing select all, we'll take out the asterisk and put the specific column name there. So I'm just going to highlight this, put it right here, and I like to write select statements by putting the select on one line and the from on another line. But then, I mean, it's just preference. You can put everything on the same line. It's up to you. So I'm going to replace the asterisk with the column name. So I want to see description. We use comma to separate columns. So I'll just put a comma there and write the next column, quantity, units price, country. Right. So let's say I just want to see these 4 columns, right? I'll just get to run that, click on execute, and there you have it. We have 4 columns being previewed. So on the bottom of the preview, you see executing query. So because of the amount of data within the table, it was still running. So now you can see query executed successfully, and we have over 541,000 rows existing in that database, right? So now we have learned how to write a select statement, and we've learned how to pull out specific columns. So let me just add that in the comment section as select for specific columns. Now we are going to learn how to filter data. Now filtering data involves adding conditions to your SQL statement. So let's build up on this script that we have written. So I'm going to select this, go down, and on a new line, we are going to make use of the where clause, right? So where is the syntax that allows you to add a condition to your SQL statements. So I'll paste our script here and then add a where clause. So where, imagine out of the data that we have, we want to focus or view data on a specific country. So in fact, instead of just these rows, I want to see the entire data set. So select all from online retail, and I want to see, I noticed that we have a country column, and I want to see online retail data for the country called Ghana, right? So where country, you call out the column equals. Now note that the country column is a text column, and so it has to be inverted commas. Also note that SQL Server is not case sensitive. So we have added our condition, and the condition is where country equals Ghana. So I'm just going to run that. Query executed successfully, and we have 1 row, and this shows that in our database we only have 1 row where the country equals Ghana, right? If I want to filter another country, I'll just change it to, let's say, Nigeria. Click on execute, and there you have it. We have a country, we have 1 column that's country equals to Nigeria. So the next thing we are going to look at is if you want to have multiple conditions in a single select statement or in a single query for retrieving data, right? So let me just run select all from online retail. Note that when I selected just the select all from online retail, I was able to execute it, not taking into consideration the condition. So that is possible in SQL. So let's say now I want to make use of, I want to add multiple conditions, and there, in order to do that, you can use what we call the end function, end. So let's say I want to write a select statement. Select all from online retail, where country equals United Kingdom, and so we are adding the new syntax and quantity equals to 6. Now note that that is a number column, so we didn't put it in inverted commas. I'm going to highlight this script and run it, and you realize that the query has been filtered. And if you look at the total number of rows, we have 35,000 rows, and in the quantity column we have 6, and in the country column we have United Kingdom. So you can go through that and you realize that we have filtered exactly what we want to see. Let's say we don't want to see, we're not concerned with the exact country. We want to change country to unit price. So where unit price equals, let's use 10, and then run. Great. So realize that the table is empty, which means there is no product where the unit price is 10. Let me use 2. Execute, and there you have it. We have filtered down our data to show us data or information where the quantity is 6 and the unit price is 2. So that's one way to filter with multiple conditions, and you make use of the end function for that. So conditions can be applied. This condition is applied whilst filtering. So let's say now we are going to move on to the next filter mechanism in SQL called the OR function. OR. So imagine I want to see information where the country is either Ghana or Nigeria. Let's write a query for that. Since we already have that in our where clause, I'm going to copy this and put it here, and I'm going to add OR to this statement. So OR country equals Ghana. So in this SQL statement, I'm saying that select all the rows within the online retail table where the country is equal to Ghana, or the country is equal to, where the country is equal to Nigeria, or the country is equal to Ghana. Execute. There we have 2 rows as our results. One row where the country is Ghana and the other where the country is Nigeria. So that's what the OR function does. Now I'd just like to add that the OR function is very useful, especially when you want to filter 2 different columns, right? So imagine I wanted to filter maybe where the country equals Nigeria, or instead of country, I'm going to say or quantity equals 5. I'm going to run that, and you note that in the quantity column we see 5 and we see a different country name, United Kingdom. So all countries where the quantity equals 5, or when Nigeria is the country, is represented in our results. We could change the OR to end, and if there is a country, if there is a record or row where the quantity is 5 and the country is Nigeria, it's going to give us exactly that. And so that's there you have it, and that's how to make use of the OR clause. The next filtering condition I'd like us to look at is in. So another way to filter a specific column, one specific column with multiple values, is to make use of the in clause. So again, I'm going to use the script we've already written and build on that. So here, instead of writing where country equals to Nigeria and where country equals to Ghana, I'm going to change the equal to in, put it in brackets, add Ghana, put a comma to separate the two, close the bracket, and then run this script. And there you have it. We have the exact same results when we run the first script, or the initial script, where country equals to Ghana and country equals to Nigeria. If we had done that, we would also get the exact same results, right? So let's just test that. Run this script. Change the syntax from and to or. There you have it. That you can run multiple scripts at the same time, honestly, if you select both of them. So imagine I select these two and run them. There you have it. Two tables on top of each other, showing the same results, written with different queries. So that's how to use the in and not in function. So imagine you want to filter out some specific countries. You want to see data on all countries with the exception of a specific country. So in English, we would say all except. However, in SQL, we would say not in or not. So let's look at these two clauses. So I'm going to again build on this script. Select all from online. Where country not in United Kingdom. And what this script does is it's going to show me all other countries with the exception of United Kingdom. And with this, I can also add, let's say, I don't want to see France as well, not in France. I can add multiple conditions. So you see Australia is there, Spain, Finland, and the rest. So I can keep adding so many different countries. And it's going to filter out these things as well. Also, with a not equal to function, not equal to works for a single item or single row or single unique value within a specific column. So let me just go down, copy paste this, and instead of not in, I'm going to make it not equal to. Sorry. So the not has to come before you call out the column. I intertwined the two, but then I've corrected that. So let's run this query. And from the results, you would see that United Kingdom isn't part of it, right? We have, our query executed successfully, and I've already gone through it. You can do that yourself if you're going along with the video and you realize that the country is not in the query statement. So the next query we are going to look at is between. So imagine you want to filter data in a table in a specific range. and this is largely used with the date column. Luckily for us, within this database, we have the invoice date column. And so we are going to write a query with the condition making use of the term between. And this is going to determine the range of values, right? The range within which sales were made. So let's look at that. Select all from online retail, where invoice date I'm just going to take this date format and so let's say invoice date between 1st January and 31st. So we have filtered, making use of the between condition to select a range. So the range that I have filtered is where the invoice date is between the 1st of January 2010 and the 31st of January 2010. And if we scroll through the data, you realize that all the dates are within January, right? Another way to confirm if you want to perform some analysis is you can easily copy the data within SQL in the results and paste it in Excel. So you can click on this box in the top left corner here to select the entire grid. You can copy with headers. You can go to Excel. Let me just empty this sheet and then paste your results here, right? So this is another way to cross-check your results. And also if you want to move or switch to Excel, especially when you have been able to filter or narrow down your data to a range that will fit in Excel, you can come and perform your analysis here. This is just by the way. So back to SQL. Okay. So that's how the between function is used. It's used to select a range of data. So when you want to retrieve data from the table, the between function is very, very useful. The next function we will be looking at is like. So the like condition is for pattern matching, right? And this allows you to select or search for information based on specific keywords. So let me just demonstrate. Like. Put this there. Select all from online retail, where let's use the description as our test. So where description like. So what I want to tell SQL, or what I'm telling SQL in my script is, I want to search for any data within the table in the description column that ends with bag. And you tell it, so the percentage sign before the text at the end is what tells or what determines the value you're looking for and where it is positioned, right? So I'm going to run this, execute. And from our results, you note that each and every single description here ends with bag. So bag, strawberry shallot bag, skull shoulder bag, strawberry shopper bag, shallot bag, and the likes. So all the results end with bag. So imagine, let's say you have a description column that has so much information, and then you know one keyword that can help narrow down your search. The like function is very important and very valuable to help filter down your data. Imagine the word you're looking for is at the beginning. Let's say the word you're looking for is strawberry. I'm going to change the text to strawberry, and I'm going to move this percentage sign to the end. And also take note that since we are dealing with a text column, and that is why it is in inverted commas. I'm going to highlight this, run it, and from our description column and from our results, you realize that each and every single record starts with strawberry. If I'm to scroll, right, strawberry throughout. Now imagine if you don't know whether the word is at the beginning or the end. Example, let's use the word bath. From row 9, you can see that we have strawberry bath sponge, right? So I'm going to change the word here to bath, put a percentage sign at the beginning and the end, which means that the word falls within the range of the description. So I'm going to highlight that, execute. And from our results, you will note that bath is found in each and every single row, not necessarily in the middle. As you can see from the first row, bath it starts the description. As you can see from other rows, bath can be found in the last word and the likes. So the like function is also very pivotal or very important when you want to filter specific columns and the column consists of a lot of information. So that is what the like function is used for. The next query we are going to look at is the NULL function. Is null. Now what does this mean? So this is where you want to filter out specific rows in a table where the column has empty values. So usually SQL represents empty columns with the word null, NULL, right? So you can also call out that. So even at a glance at our data, you can tell from the customer ID column that there are some null values there. So as part of, let's say, your data exploration, you want to check specific columns, you can do that. So let's add the is null condition and see how it works. I'm going to copy this, paste, select all from online where customer ID is null. So we've been able to filter that, and that this gives us an idea of the fact that the customer ID is not complete. Some customers have no IDs within that column, and this allows you to focus on this information in order to either investigate further to gain the customer ID or address it. We can also tell that there are some null in the description column. So we can also change the condition from customer ID to description is null. There you have it. You can also check invoice number, and it will work on any column as long as there are some null values, right? So with the invoice number, note that no data was showing. This means that there is a value for the invoice number column, right? It means that each and every single row within the invoice number column is not empty, and that's what it means. And now this brings us to the next function. Imagine you want to focus on only data that has values within it. The next filter query is the is not null clause. So I'm just going to highlight this, copy, paste and just add the text not. So what I'm saying is select all columns within the online table where invoice number is not null. Highlight, execute, and it shows you that. So once you go through the data, you realize that there are no null values, right? So these are all columns, or these are all conditions within SQL DQL language, data query language, for retrieving data. And most times databases keep large volumes of data, and the challenge that we usually have is how to work our way through that data, how to filter that data. And that is why DQL exists, to allow us to easily filter out the data that we have and perhaps even switch platforms to engage in further analysis. So from here, once you know how to write these scripts, you know how to query to retrieve data, you can now, let's say, connect it to Microsoft Power BI to visualize your results. You can copy the information you have here and paste it in Excel, perform some analysis on it. And these are some of the few conditions that are used to filter data within SQL, right? So I want to take us through how to summarize data. Before we summarize, I just want to show us the distinct function. Yeah, so I'm going to do both of them. So let me just start with select distinct from online retail. So let's say select distinct country from online retail. I'm sure you've guessed what this script is going to do. It allows you to get the unique values that exist within that column. Right. So if I run this, my results show 40 rows. And these 40 rows show that within the country column, we have about 40 different countries, from Finland to USA to Germany and the likes. 40 different unique countries exist within the column. And that's what the distinct function does. It allows you to select unique values within the table. Before we move on to the order by and group by function, I just want to show you some aggregation queries, and that is the count. So imagine I want to count how many times each country appears, right? But let me just start with the regular select statement. Take it one step at a time. So once you write a select statement like this, where I've written select all, I can add an aggregated column to it by adding a comma and then stating my aggregated column. And in this instance, I want a count, right? So I'm going to type in count, and in the bracket put count all, run this query. And I have gotten an error. Why? Because in order to count information, right, you need to sort of group it or summarize that information. So just as within Excel, a pivot table would work, it only works by summarizing the data that exists. We need to also summarize the data within SQL Server, and that's what the group by function is used for. So instead of writing select all, I want to summarize or count the amount of times countries appear in the rows. So I'm going to edit or update my script to select distinct country count from online retail. And in order to summarize it, the syntax or SQL clause that is used is the group by function. The group by function is what is used for summarizing data within SQL Server. So I'm going to add that as a condition. So select distinct country, count all from online retail, group by country. So in the group by function, you need to state the column that you want to group by, and usually it is the column that you have stated in your select statement. So I'll highlight this, execute, and there you have it. We have successfully written a script and executed a script for group by. Now imagine, so you note that the result has a column header for the countries, but no column header for the count. In order to add a column header, you need to make use of what we call aliases. An alias, right? So this allows you to add a column name to an aggregation that you've done. So let's say you've summarized, you've counted a column and you want to name that column count. That is what we call alias. So I'm going to edit my group by query and just put here as count. Execute. So the alias works by allowing you to give your aggregation a name. So you can see from my results that now the count column has a name and I named it count. I could have changed the name to count countries. And that is exactly what it's going to show me. So looking at the results, you realize that there's no order to the count. So if you want to sort out a table in SQL, the function that is used to sort tables or sort out data is called the order by function. It allows you to order data in ascending order or descending order. Now, by default, the order by function is in ascending order, and you would have to state whether descending order or not. Yeah. So I'm going to continue to build on this group by function. And add another condition called order by. And I want to order by count of countries, right? And that is the name that I gave it. So note that even in the suggestions, we have count countries there. So if I'm to run this, it is automatically going to order or sort out my results in ascending order according to the count column from the lowest to the highest. And there you have it. So Nigeria and Ghana appear just once, Saudi Arabia appears 10 times. If you want to order in descending order, you have to add DESC for descending order after you name the column you want to order by. Let's rerun this. Right, now we started performing some analysis in SQL. So from the use of distinct, use of the group by function, use of the aggregation function, which is count, making use of the order by function, we have been able to summarize data according to country, and we can tell at a glance from our results that the United Kingdom appears the most within the table, whereas Ghana and Nigeria appear the least, right? And so these are the count values. Let's say you want to even multiply columns, total sale. You can make use of the aggregation of multiplication as well. So let me just demonstrate that as well. Multiplication. So let me just select all. This shows you all the data in the table. And note that we have a quantity column and a unit price column, but we don't have a total sale column. So imagine you want to add a total sale column to this query, right? Note that adding it serves as a temporary table. It is not you are not necessarily adding to the database itself, but you are adding an aggregation that is a temporal table simply because you've run your query. It's not a data definition language that is going to alter the database, right? These are data query language, and in fact, I'm even moving into data manipulation languages, right? So in addition to the select all, I'm going to add a column called total sale, and it's going to be the product of quantity times unit price. I know it can be confusing. I'm still using asterisks. So in this instance, you have to put it in a bracket in order to ensure that the asterisk means multiply. So I'm going to run this. And we can already see that in addition to all the columns that exist in the table, we have a new column with no column name, which has values. So you can see 15.3. And if you multiply 2.55 by 6, you're going to get that. You can check. And same for all the rows. Now we want this column to be named total sale. So I'm going to go back and update my query as total sale. Note that when you're writing column names, if you want to have space within your column name, make sure you put the text in inverted commas. So I execute. Column name is sent to total sale. Or I can take out the hyphen there and rather put this in inverted commas and run. There you have it. Right. So that is how to group by, that's how to order by, that's how to aggregate information as well. Right. The next query for aggregation that we are going to look at is the having function. So we have a group by function that allows you to summarize data according to the rows. But then imagine you want to summarize your information and still perform some aggregation. You would now make use of the having function. The having function's purpose is to filter aggregated results, right? So I'm going to build on the group by function and put it here. What we're working is with the having function. So select all from group by. Then we add the function having count. So imagine what I want to do is I want to limit the count. I want to see countries where the count is more than 2,000, right? So that is where the having function comes in. So having counts or counts countries greater than 2,000. Sorry, so SQL does not understand the alias I've used in the having function. So I'm going to select the actual aggregation, which is count all, and use that in the having function instead of the count countries. Because SQL does not see count countries as an actual column that exists within the table. That's how come we are having or getting that error. So just click on execute. And there you have it. The count of the countries has been limited to 8 rows, and each of the rows within the data is above 2,000. Can order this again. Counts, countries. So I've ordered our results in ascending order, and you can see at a glance that Switzerland has the least count of the 8, right? So this is one way to filter data. This is one way to summarize data. This is one way to aggregate or filter aggregated results as well. These are ways of applying conditions to select statements to retrieve information and perform some analysis on it. So watch out for my next video where we'll dive deeper into SQL scripts.